The greatest R6 Pro of all time is not Shaiiko, it's not Spoit, it's not Beaulo, and in this video, I'm going to explain exactly why that is. With the 6th Invitational coming up, Siege's biggest tournament ever, this is a good time to discuss this because any of these 3 players could cement themselves closer in the conversation if they win this tournament. This is literally Siege's biggest tournament in history, biggest tournament every year, and I'm sorry, Jinxie viewers, it's just not the case yet, at least in most R6 actual fans' opinions. They're not in the conversation yet, and no, it's not Stompin', because, you know, Stompin's not even pro yet. In this video, we're going to talk about all the reasons why Shaiiko, Spoit, and Beaulo are not currently, at least, up there in the conversation of the greatest of all time, who actually is in the conversation, and who might be, you know, other things like who's the greatest coach of all time and why it's not me, chat. I'm nowhere close either. So the first person we're going to talk about is Spoit. The biggest thing we talk about when we're talking about the greatest pro, at least within esports of all time, right, is chips, rings, championships, right? You're not gonna talk, no NBA player is your greatest of all time, is your GOAT without an NBA championship, right? Or at least multiple NBA championships. Spoit has won a single major, that being the Berlin major in his first stage ever, his rookie stage as a pro, which is a crazy feat. He became the best team in the world. For those who don't know, if you see A-tier competitions, S-tier competitions is an international world championship, or at least, you know, winning that makes you the best team in the world at the time. So Spoit has won one S-tier event, won one major. He's on the same amount of accomplishments as me right now. I also have only won one major, and I do not nowhere near think myself to be the GOAT of this game. But yeah, this is that's the reason, right? So I want to introduce that as the first thing is number of NBA championships, right? MJ's the GOAT because he's won like what, 6? LeBron is considered to be in the GOAT conversation because he's won like 3 or 4. Same with Steph, like they've won multiple NBA championships. But a player like Jason Tatum, for example, would you consider him to be your GOAT? You wouldn't, right? Like I think it's pretty like important here to understand the criteria we're going by. Yes, you can determine a player's insane or impactful, whatever, but I think the prerequisite for most people and most sports thing, the first thing they talk about is the number of chips they have, and you just have to have world championships in Siege. You have to have titles in Siege, and not only that, but multiple titles. Which brings us to our next player, Beaulo. This is one thing that Beaulo has over Spoit, and Shaiiko too, is Beaulo has won a tournament called the 6th Invitational. Like I said, the biggest tournament in the world. If you see here, it's not, you know, this year and every year before this, it is a $3 million prize pool. Right, I keep emphasizing every time, it's not fake, it's not like a console tournament title, it's genuinely a $3 million prize pool. For reference, the majors are only $750,000 prize pools. This is for $3 million, and for the time being, at least with the English-speaking world, I know Brazilians called major winners world champions, but for now, for the most of R6 viewers, you only are a world champion if you win the 6th Invitational. That's why Beaulo posted this video that he is world champions, because he's won the 6th Invitational before. But also, right, that is currently, I think, his only S-tier win as well. He has won, right, he has won. But the problem with Beaulo is that there are people out there with multiple invitational wins. If you see him lifting a trophy, he's lifting a hammer. These things are called hammers, right? So there are people out there with multiple hammers. And that's the only thing that's stopping Beaulo from progressing further in this conversation, is that the most prestigious tournament in Siege history. Yes, Beaulo has won it one time. Yes, he's a fucking legend. He's a great figure in the game. If we're talking about pure content-wise, he's on Mount Rushmore. He's the GOAT, you know, pure figure in the game. But in terms of pure achievements, NBA championships, Olympic championships, world championships, he has won. So sadly, for the time being, he could expand this because he is playing the next 6th Invitational, but he has won for now. The next person we're talking about now is Shaiiko. I think Shaiiko right now is probably the closest to being in this GOAT conversation. He is definitely the most consistent player of all time. The way I view him, however, in basketball terms, is more like a KD, in my opinion, right? So Shaiiko is definitely the most consistent player in history. He's so insane. There's just one issue with Shaiiko. Number one is that Shaiiko does not have a hammer, right? That's one thing Beaulo has over Shaiiko. He doesn't have the most prestigious win. And the second thing is most of Shaiiko's S tier titles are Gamers 8. If you don't know what Gamers 8 is, Gamers 8 is a Saudi Arabian tournament that kind of like spawned in, right? So it's like, you know, Saudi Arabia, they got fucking oil money out the wazoo. So of course they can host these tournaments with the craziest prize pools of all time and like match invite. And it's crazy. But the problem with that is just that just recently, it's been considered like a siege, an actual siege, legitimate thing. Because the first 2 years, like, so in total, Shaiiko has 1 major, right? And 3 Gamers 8s, now rebranded to the Esports World Cup. So 3 Saudi tournaments, which people have started calling him a Saudi merchant, right? Like if they host a tournament in Saudi, Shaiiko would win every single tournament, which is kind of harmful to his name. The reason this is kind of like weird is just because like it's just recently coming into legitimacy. The first year, all the pros that played it were like, oh, this isn't real. You know, there's no way that's real. There's no way this prize pool is real. So a lot of teams didn't even try to qual for it. And then the second year, it's like the invite system was weird where they invited teams that just placed top 3 at invite. And then everyone else had to play through single elim open qualifiers, like even all the pro teams as well. And it all happens in like the course of 1 week when like these actual majors and invitationals happen over the course of like multiple weeks. Right, so that's like you know, it's a little bit different. If I had to explain it, I would have to say like a major is like an NBA championship. Invite is like the Olympics, I guess, but if the Olympics could be played by like every single team, like actual basketball teams, and the Gamers 8 is like the NBA Cup. Gamers 8 is like the NBA Cup, or like whatever new midseason tournament. In League of Legends term, I would say like majors like MSI and like, you know, the, you know, Worlds is like invite. Right, so yeah, the NBA Cup, March Madness, yeah, there you go. That's how I would explain it. So right now, that's a little bit of an issue. Is like right now, yes, the Esports World Cup, I currently do view it as like a chip, an S tier. Like now that it's rebranded to the Esports World Cup, and now that everyone is going for it, and now that everyone realizes it's legit, right? I feel like everyone like it definitely does show a lot. But the issue is, right, if you see right here, he's got 2nd place at the last 2 official Ubisoft tournaments, which, you know, kind of like plays pretty badly in the Saudi merchants narrative, and at the end of the day, he doesn't have a hammer, right? But this is the biggest thing with this conversation. The biggest thing with this conversation is that invite's coming up. Invite is coming up. It's in February. I'm gonna be streaming all of the games. You can catch them all on my channel, or I'm gonna try to streaming all the games, right? And if they're all competing on it, Spoit, Shaiiko, Beaulo, all your favorite Jinxie R6 Pro players are all playing in the 6th Invitational 2025. If either of them win it, I think they all just cement themselves instantly into the top of that conversation, right? So that is like, I think right now the reason why like true R6 esports fans, like they know anything about the game, or if you talk about actual like pro accomplishments, I think that is why they're not viewed within the top of the greatest of all time conversation as of right now. Now, we're going to move on to the next segment, which, who is, right? Who is in this conversation? Who is in this conversation? I recently made a video. Anyway, so I'm going to go over everyone in the conversation, starting with this guy. I recently made a video about Pengu, and it seems like the world forgot because, like I said, someone came in my chat, was like, who is the guy? He's a plumber? Here's the thing, right? Let's count Shaiiko's S tier wins, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Beaulo has 1 S tier win. Spoit has 1 S tier win. Right? Pengu has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 S tier wins. And 2 of them were back-to-back 6 invitationals. I think I can confidently say like that he is, I think, as a player, at least as a player, tied with, you know, I'm gonna talk about his teammate Fabian later, tied for the most S tier titles in Siege, period. Right? He is a 7 times best team in the world, 2 of them being the most prestigious tournament in Siege, the 6th Invitational. He's won it twice back to back on G2 and on Penta. If you know anything about this game, then you've seen this clip.
Pengu wins it up, nude, and here we go, Penta. Ladies and gentlemen, are going to the grand final. Are we gonna see a repeat of last year? Well, it's not gonna.
Like, if you know anything about this, if you watch R6 Esports back in the day, then you also know this clip as well.
Cover the doorway as they start to defuse. Pengu goes for 1 on the young.
Like, this is nostalgic. These are some of the most viewed R6 clips of all time. Like, besides the iconic, you know, shotgun clutch in Oregon, these are the most R6 clips of all time, right? So Pengu was a top performer on his team. He's won all, like, literally the first, like, 5 minutes of this video, or not, like 3 minutes of this video, is literally just him lifting trophies because he's won that much, right? So, like, definitely, and this was like the most dominant dynasty in the history of Siege. This G2 Esports Penta team was the most dominant dynasty in the history of Siege. So, and he was one of the best players, one of the most well-known players. So I think for most people who actually watch R6 Esports, Pengu is their top answer. I do want to speak on something, the Shaiiko situation, where like everyone's saying like, oh, he's a scumbag for getting Shaiiko banned. At the end of the day, like, you got to realize Pengu's not going into it with the intention of getting Shaiiko banned. Chat, you know how in those roller tournaments you can request anyone use a hand cam, like to make sure they're not, like, you know, using Cronus or Zim or actually using Rico. Like you could do the same thing in Pro League. It's like you could check their Moss, and then Shaiko's literally anti-cheat file did not pass the admin test. Now back then it was a very shoddy, it was very like, Shaiiko made a whole document, you know, complaining about like how like, oh, like they could reproduce that accidental thing without actually having macros. But at the end of the day, the anti-cheat file came back with the macro, okay? They didn't just ban him because Pengu said so. Like it's because the file that the anti-cheat that tracks all your keystrokes, that tracks all your programs, that takes a screenshot of your screen, that tracks everything, the Moss file, that came back with the macro. Granted, it was probably bullshit because the program wasn't as developed at the time, but Shaiiko served the full length of his ban. He didn't get unbanned because of anything, I'm pretty sure. So regardless of all that, it's like you can call for a Moss check on anyone, okay? I'm not saying it was right, it was wrong. I'm not saying Shaiiko was cheating. I'm just saying it's a tournament. It's not anyone's fault, in my opinion, except for the Moss at the time, the developer of the cheat at the time, for not making it as robust that should have been, and the admin's fault for not investigating it a lot more. Besides, oh, we found the thing that literally shows a macro. It's not humanly possible. You're banned. The next guy we're talking about, I think, is the greatest R6 mind of all time. And the guy we're going to talk about is Fabian. Fabian has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's 7, obviously. He's won the exact, because he was on this team with Pengu all the way through, right? He's won the exact same amount. He's got 7 S tiers as a player. He was the IGL for that team, that dynasty, that team ran Siege. This is the Chicago Bulls, chat. This is the Chicago Bulls. G2 is the Chicago Bulls. They won just back-to-back champions every single year, every single time, over and over. Straight fucking wins this whole stretch without losing. They were dominant as fuck. Chicago Bulls. This is them. He won he retired, he became a coach, and he won the 6th Invitational again. He is the only player in the game with 3 hammers. 3 f***ing hammers. He's got 3 6 invitational titles. 3. 2 as player, 1 as coach. The greatest R6 mind of all time. This is if Michael Jordan went to the Charlotte Hornets and then also brought the Charlotte Hornets a trophy as head coach. That's the deal with Fabian. I'm going to pull up a Fabian coach clip, and this is him calling a timeout.
Oh, he sounds mad.
I haven't shut it up you once in my entire 6 months here. But what the fuck are we doing? We're timid, we're not talking, we're shouting over each other. Fucking wake up! Is this how we want to go out of the tournament? We've shown everyone here that we were the best team in this tournament in group stages. Fucking do it! You guys got this! Communication and coordination! We're one by one dying everywhere! Time to wake up! Fucking get the energy! Fire in your asses! Get this shit done! Let's go with it. Let's wake up. Energy, show it!
And then he wins the tournament, right? And then he wins the tournament against a team that went on to win the entirety of next year. They lift the trophy. They win the entire tournament. You know, this guy, best coach in the world. And then he goes to like Asia after that, and he brings a Korea. By the way, Korea like is like commonly known as like one of the lowest regions in Siege, and he brings a Korean team to beat BDS after that as their coach. So that should just go to show his prowess in the mind. Now, like you guys said, what you guys are saying is correct. The only thing that you can argue, that these guys have the most R6 achievements in Siege, the most S tiers period. The only thing argument against these guys, like you said, is that during their time as a dynasty that they shat on everyone else sucked. Which is true. The only thing I have to say against that is, like, no matter what, the current players will always be better than old players. So it's like, for me, it's more accurate to go off the gap between the top and the bottom. But it's true. Like, between the gap and the rest of the competition, right? And for like the most amount of time. But it's true. At that time, the game was mostly undeveloped. These guys were so fucking far ahead that, of course, they dominated absolutely everyone for the longest time. This brings us to our next guy, Troy Canadian. Whoever's editing the video, put this one in first.
Why am I so much fucking better than you? God damn! Using a fucking ump and you fucking little shits still get fucking hang. I'm old as shit with the worst gun in the game. You're playing Twitch, Gio. You're playing Twitch.
All right. Now, the thing with Troy, right? This is the most impressive thing about Canadian. Is that what is the argument we make for LeBron, right? LeBron won in different eras on different teams. He won with the Heat, he won with the Cavaliers, and he won with the Lakers. That is the argument for LeBron, right? In different eras. Troy won the first ever Six Invitational, right, in 2017 with Continuum. He then won the 2026 Invitational with SSG, and then he won the 2022 Charlotte Major with Dark Zero. So in terms of accomplishments, not point scoring because he's IGL, I guess, but he's won like 2 to 3 years apart on different teams, 3 world titles. Best in the world 3 times in different teams. That is what makes Canadian so goddamn impressive. And one thing you'll notice, so the clip you just watched him trash talking, this was a 1v3 against Beaulo in the World Champion of CH. But like, regardless of that, this is what I mean, right? Like, Siege, if you look at Fabian, if you look at Canadian, at least these 2 players in terms of just purely achievements, they're both IGLs, right? So this is what I mean by Siege is at this level is much more of a brain game in terms of being impactful than just an aim game, right? You can say anything you want about, stopping, this player, Beaulo with the better system, with the better IGL, but it's players like Canadian and Fabian that use their comms, their IGLing, and their directing to create consistent results. There's a reason why they consistently win. Canadian wins consistently with different teams and different rosters and different time spans, and Fabian dominated that long because Fabian was also dropping players left and right, replacing them almost like not every tournament, but like pretty commonly he'd replace other members of his dominating squad, even though they were winning everything, and people were like, why would you change your roster after you won? No, he's doing it. He's consistently with different players as well, also managed to dominate because of his mind. Right? So you bring a lot more consistency in winning and titles and chips by directing your team. And that's why, players like KD, they drop a hell of a lot of points. Players like Shaiiko, they drop a hell of a lot of, frags. But they don't consistently win. Shaiiko didn't, consistently win, or like a Gamers 8 or whatever, at least until he picked up Likeyfac, which is his IGL, his rookie IGL, and then they won a major together. Right? So that's why I keep saying, like, Siege at this level really isn't an aim game. It doesn't matter if you have 5 stoppits on your team, if they don't communicate with each other and no one's calling the shots correctly and they're not united at the same time. Right? So that is why Canadian, right? 3 different world titles, 3 S tiers in 3 eras on 3 different teams. That, to me, is insane. And for me, like, achievements-wise, he is like the LeBron of Siege, right? So 2 hammers, right? 2 Six Invitationals. And that's why I say, like, it's hard to compare Shaiiko, Beaulo, Spoit against guys who have not only won the Six Invitational, but have won it multiple times. Pengu has 2, Fabian has 3, Canadian has 2. Now, here comes the greatest team in recent times. If you watch Jinxie, then you've seen the 2024 Six Invitational Finals where W7M came back from a 6-1 deficit. 6-1 for FaZe. if you watch Jinxie at all, 6-1 W7M, then proceed to win every single round after that. Just watch.
Stalling out this push, so W7M have to wait for their moment. It's all Is this the moment where we get crowned a new champion, a new dynasty to be created?
This was one of Jinxie's most viewed streams. He had like 250,000 viewers. This was like I think 300,000 viewers at some point. Like this was pure cinema, right? But that's not the craziest part. The craziest part of this run is that people thought after G2 there would never be a Siege Dynasty ever again. Chat, this team did not only, they're Furia now, so like keep it for grain of salt, but this team won every single Ubisoft official tournament in the year. They went home run. There's 2 majors in the year and 1 6 invitational to cap it off. They won the R6 Major Copenhagen, they won the R6 Major Atlanta, and they won the 6 Invitational. Back to back to back, an entire year, they hit a home run, right? A golden road, right? That's like winning your Prem League. Like, okay, now that's like winning Champions League and then the World Cup in like the same year, except like there's 2 Champions League. Like, I don't even know how to explain how insane this is. No team has ever went back to back to back to back like that. I guess maybe besides G2, but I think even G2 Penta had moments where like a team overtook them for one event of the year. In my opinion, that team as a whole, this team as a whole is the current greatest team of current times. And in the GOAT conversation, like all of these players as a 5, because they stuck together, they didn't change things. G2 actually changed things. These guys are like the coach, everyone, right? Greatest of all time. Which is also why I am not the GOAT, right? I am not the GOAT, the coach of that team that, by the way, he was with this team when they were in relegations. That's the biggest thing, right? And then he slowly picked apart the roster and put it back together until, like, he fucking created a dominant team throughout an entire R6 esports year, bro. He this. They were literally in 8th place. They were literally about to get relegated, knocked out of Pro League. And then he pieced back together the roster to win major 6 invitational. So this guy is the greatest coach of all time by far. By far. I'm nowhere close. I thought what I did was pretty cool. Just because like none of these guys, I think what I did was special because I don't think it can be replicated, right? Just because I pieced together a team where no one has teamed with each other before in one stage and we won the world title right after that. That's the only reason. But in terms of number of achievements, I come nowhere close. I have the same amount of wins as Spoit and we're pretty cool. We're both Asian. We're both pretty cool. But, you know, that's what it is. Now, if the thing is, I know we can't really look at a whole team as like the goated team or whatever, so we have to pick out players, and people fucking love numbers, obviously. So we're gonna look at the 2 highest performing players on the team, which are the fraggers. And I hate to discredit the IGL, the support player. I think they're the greatest in each of their roles respectively. But you know, when you look at NBA GOAT, you know, you don't look at the Chicago Bulls and like look at like Scottie Pippen. Oh, that guy's the GOAT. You look at MJ because he fucking scored a lot, right? So Herds. What did Herds do? Herds MVP'd the Major Atlanta MVP, tournament MVP. He was a tournament MVP for the Major Copenhagen. So he MVP'd both his major wins in that year, and then he had the most MVP wins, and he broke the tournament kill record for 6 Invitational 2024 at that SI that he won. So just for those of you who are not familiar with hers, this is his gameplay. I'm just showing you.
They have one inside of janitors. That's the one play that can stop this plan. Because there's no C4s, if you clear out janitors, they can maybe plant here.
50 seconds left in 4-on-3 for W7M. FaZe starting to go for that top square push, third in the round. Herds. Oh my god! It's a quad kill from Herds.
Yeah. So that's Herds. For those of you who aren't familiar, like I said, that event, Herds broke the kill record for an event kill record. And the other guy we're gonna talk about, which on his team, the other fragger on his team, right, is Keys. Right, Keys is the other disgusting fragger on that team. Oh yeah, and shout out Gunner. You know, my player when the Manchester Major when we won together, he broke the BO5 kill record. Absolute fucking monster.
Piano. Corre, piano. Corre, piano, piano, cadê?
Okay.
Tá, vou jogar um drone fake. Bora, 3, 2, 1, pulei.
Não tem calda aí.
Peguei ele.
3v3.
Meu, neném. Quadrado. Abrindo você, abrindo. Os dois abrindo neném,
Também, Jagger, pra mim.
Matou ele. Matou ele. É seu. Valeu.
Also, like, if you notice, I'm gonna make a video on this too. If you watch these Brazil, like, that region has dominated Siege. They had that year that they, like, all of that teams won. Brazil had 6 out of 6 grand finalists be Brazilian. Granted, 3 of them were W7M because they won all of them, obviously. But, like, Brazil dominates this fucking game. The last champion that beat BDS and Shaiiko to win the last major in Montreal was a Brazilian team, and they are known to be the most disgusting mechanical region. If you watch them play, which I'll just play that Keys like a montage, I guess. If you watch them play, then you'll notice that their like mechanics actually aren't flashy at all. They never like Shaiiko peak. They never like has shown peak. They just have solid crosshair placements. I also don't know why they edit their montages like this. Like it's kind of cringe. But if you just look at his movement, this is the guy that had 336 kills in one event. And I'm gonna make a whole video on this, on like you know, why actually the flashiest players aren't the best. But like, this guy moves slow and methodical as hell. Like, he just a Shaiiko peak. He just a, you know, Jago. He looks like a bot. I'm gonna be real. Compared to like Spoit and Beaulo, like, it looks crazy, right? But like, all the players in the region, I swear to God, like 99% of them play like this. None of them are flashy. They just play like super slow methodical aim, and they're the most lethal region in the world. Like, people will know, say like challenge them is impossible. But yeah, for W7M, the team we're talking about, like the coach, Herds, Keys, and all their players, honestly, back to back is insane. Everyone that is pro will tell you how insane it is to accomplish that. It is ridiculous, right? But there it is. That's everyone in the GO conversation. A couple honorable mentions. We have Palu and Nest, which they both, like, Palu has 0 S tiers, and I believe Nest has 1 S tier, which is a Pro League final. But they're like the best players, the most lethal players that have never won. This was before CGG. This is a stats website called CGG. Before that website kind of crashed and lost all its data, they both were plus 1,000, and I think right now they're nearing on plus 1,500 or plus 2,000. You see their KD? 3,000, 4,000, 3,000 kills and like 2,000 deaths. That means they have 1,000 more kills and deaths, and that was 3 years ago. 3 years ago. So they're like the best players that haven't won at all or enough, right? Like, Nesk has 1 S tier, but other than that, like, they are insane. They are insane, right? Like, they are plus 1,000. That is, like, right now they're probably plus 1,500, if anything. And then Julio, right now he's a coach, I think. Is he a coach for BDS? Oh no, for Orgless. But he's a coach right now. He's won an invitational. Yeah, he's won an invitational, and then he's won okay, he won an invitational. He got 2nd place before that, and then he got 2nd place again. Okay, so he's had 2 2nd place. That's why I completely blanked out. He's had 1 6th invite win and 2 2nd place invite placings, which makes him like on the verge of like 2 additional hammers to like put him on the spot with Fabian, right? But unfortunately he wasn't getting close enough, so that's an honorable mention. But I hope you guys enjoyed that video. For the 6th Invitational coming up, though, it's going to be from February 3rd to February 16th. The live event is from the 14th to 16th. I'll be there, but I'll stream all the games. Don't miss it, because Shaiiko, Beaulo, and Spoit are all going to be playing in that event. And if any of them win, then that puts them in the conversation, no doubt, especially Shaiiko. I think that cements him possibly as just the GOAT straight up, depending on how the Esports World Cup and the Saudi tournaments are viewed. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. For all the YouTube viewers, love you guys. That's it. Peace out.